who would you say was the most successful man ever in history? I'm asking you the question, the most successful person ever in history. Now, you're going to maybe say Avraham Avinu, Moshe Rabbeinu. No. I'm not looking for the Avraham Avinus, meaning these people who are the superstars. I'm looking for a regular, simple person. Rabbi Akiva, right?
40 years old.
I'm trying to find...
Not a spiritual person.
I'm trying to find the guy who you would say, hands down, the most successful person ever in history.
Yosef.
Rabbi Akiva is interesting, Yosef is interesting, but Yosef is like a superstar. Also Rabbi Akiva, I'm thinking, is a superstar. I want a normal guy, a regular individual.
He was on Earth till he was 40 years old.
Yeah, okay, Rabbi Akiva, so you vote Rabbi Akiva. Who are you voting for? Anyone? Any other votes? I'm saying someone who's just like incredible. So Rabbi Akiva, no? What else?
I said Yosef.
Yosef is good too. Okay. Moshe. Here's my feeling.
Anybody. Everybody who
They're
all
ever something.
I'll tell you why I vote my vote, and you'll see if you agree or not. My vote is this. Look at this. How do you know in the Torah that you are supposed to... How do you know to build a mikveh? We build a mikveh. How do you build a mikveh? You take this body of water, and the body of water has to have 40 saw in it. Then you connect it, let's say on top of the mikveh or next to it, whichever way you build it. You put another pool of water, and you dip in this pool of water, and then that one's going to be connected to this one through a little hole, which connects one body to the other. And now, if you tabled in and you immersed, you're good. Has to have a certain amount of water, exact, right? And that water has to be put in, and it's going to be rainwater, and it's going to be a specific amount. There's a lot of limitations to how this thing's going to work. Or you could table in a spring, right? And there's so many details about how to table what exactly constitutes a kosher mikvah or not. Tell me, where do we know it from in the Torah? There's a lot of Shulchan Aruch and Gemara. Where's the pasuk that we know it from? It's a very simple pasuk. It says, Ach mayon uvor mikveh mayim yetor. Ach mayon uvor mikveh mayim yetor. 7 words.
Must be in my yik or somewhere.
But a spring and a pool, a pit, a gathering of waters will become pure. From which we learn so many dinim about what a mayan is, what a spring is, and what a mikveh is, what's considered a gathering of waters, and how you gather them together, and how big and how much has to be. Has to be enough that your person should be able to put his body in and get in, and you squiggle in basically that amount of water. How much water is that? So there's tons and tons and tons written about how you know how to table in a mikveh. What? From one little pasuk. How about this? How do you know if, I just got out the question, somebody dipped a fleishik spoon into a milchik macaroni with cheese? So the question is, how do you know what to do? Well, what's the pasuk? The pasuk says, what's the pasuk about basa b'chalav? Loi sevashel gdi b'chalev imoy. Very good. So you shouldn't cook a calf in the milk of his mother. Okay, where does it say it there? So Chazal Darshan, and we come out what the deraisa is. Oh, because it says it 3 times in the Torah. Isur achila, isur bishul, isur hana. You can't eat, you can't cook, and you can't derive any benefits. So many myriads of dinim about basa b'chalav. You're supposed to wait 6 hours after meat to eat milk. Why? Because it says lo yisavashal gdi b'chalev imoy. Like, how did you figure that one out? But the Torah spends all this koyach deducing all the literature of Mishnayos and Gemara, deducing what did the Torah mean when it says when you shecht an animal, right? How do you slaughter an animal halachically? So there are 5 rules of shchita. It's got to be shahiyah, drasa, hagrama, chalada, ikur. Never mind the details, but that's basically how you slaughter. You have to have shecht, the two sides of the ox, right? The trachea and the esophagus, and you have to make sure that your knife doesn't go in between. It has to be a knife which is solid, without any little pegimois, any blemishes, etc., etc. All these different dinim. How do you know it? Where does the Torah say all these myriads of dinim? You know where it says it? It's actually deraisa, but the pasuk says, "V'achta kasher tzivisicha." Do as I said. Shech, as I said, as you said. Oh, I'm supposed to figure out that what you mean is how to shech. Basically, the point is that Torah does not have any redundant words. The Torah says the bare minimum of words which you need to say in order to get the point across.
Because it's an oral tradition. I mean, that's how it's supposed to be.
Okay.
So
there's no minced words. Right.
It's being passed down anyway.
Very good. So there's no mincing of words. Right? The question is, what's the question? Shaila is, if the Torah is so scrupulous about every single word that it says, why is it that when it comes to certain words the Torah says, that these words, instead of the Torah is always like the bare minimum of words. I'll show you one place in the Torah. In the Torah, where this same Torah, where every single word is thought of, right? Loi sebashel gdi b'chaleid imoy. You don't want to say an extra word just to let me know the point. No, you want me to work hard to figure out what the word means. Right? But there's one place in the Torah where there's just pasuk after pasuk after pasuk describing a story. Instead of saying Eliezer arrived he went to find Rivka. So he arrived in Haran, found Rivka and brought her back. I could have said that whole thing in about 6 words. Instead, the Torah says, he arrived up there, he had 10 camels, he parked 10 camels, he crouched them down, right? And then he says to himself, and all these words, look at this, look how extensive the discussion is. He starts, it's basically half the parasha. So he puts the thing down, Vayemar, we have no Chashal Sheles over here. And he says, God, if you help me today and you find me a shidduch for Rivka, right, for Yitzchak, then I'm going to stand in there. I'm standing by the waters, and the girls are coming to draw water, and the girl who's going to say to me, tilt your cud and I'll give her to drink, she's the one who's going to be the girl. Before he even finishes speaking, what happens? Out comes this young girl, Rivka, and what she looked like, and all the details. And then she said to him, you can't just say she did what he just said. No. What she did was, she said, oh, I'll give you to drink. You want to drink? Not just you. I'll give also to your camels. And then he takes the jewelry and he puts it on her. Right. Okay. If that's not bad enough, he says to her, do you have any place for us to stay? She says, absolutely, come, you and your camel and everything, we're good, 100%. Now he comes, he sits down, and they say, eat. They say, give him a meal. He says, I'm not eating until I say my point. And he says his point. And now, the same Torah, which I have to break my head, basically. Talmidei Chachamim are breaking their heads. Why? Because you didn't want to say anything more than Ach, Mayan, Uvor, Mikve, Mayan, Yetor. 7 words. Therefore, throughout the ages, Talmidei Chachamim have to break their heads figuring out what you meant. The same Torah says, he sat down and he says, let me tell you the story. This morning, well, I traveled, I arrived with my camels. And you're like, I know that, I just heard that story. No, I arrived with my camels. And I sat down and I said, which girl's going to come out? And the girl that's going to come out, she's going to be the right girl. And then this girl is going to, she's going to give me water and for my camels. And the girl came out. You remember the story? I'm going to repeat it for you just so you get the point. And the girl came out. And I said, before I said, my master told me to go find, what?
I promised my master.
I promised my master to go find a girl. I came to this place and I arrived over here and I didn't know what to do. So I said, God, if the girl that comes out, she's going to be the little girl. At least some words have changed over here a little bit. But before I even finished speaking, what happens? This girl comes out and she came and she tilted her jug and she said, I said afterwards, who are you? Okay, he switched the order over here, right? Before he didn't ask her who she was. He said, you know, you're the girl. Like he gave her the jewelry, and then he said, who are you? But when he says, I asked her who you are, she said, so I put the jewelry on her. Now, if you're going to do me chesed, and my master chesed, give it to me, and they gave her, and he's happy, and the shidduch is created. And I read the story, and I'm like, that was a long
When is the shidduch
aliyah.
created?
That was 2 aliyahs, Shlishi and Revi, which are extensive aliyahs. So many words are not spared over here. And the Gemara wants to know, Chazal want to know, is this the same Chumash? Which is here just extensive wording. What did Eliezer do to deserve so many psukim in his story? The most successful man in history is a man who succeeded in doing what nowhere else in Torah, no other Talmud Chacham, nowhere else in Torah. Rabbi Akiva is saying he was the most successful, maybe. I'm not here to judge. But Rabbi Akiva, let me tell you, he spent his whole life figuring out. He was darshaning tilim shel halachas on every koitz shel yud. He darshan in the Torah when the Torah has a little koitz, right? The Torah has these little tagim on the letters. He darshaned all his drushes and what it says in those things. That's Rabbi Akiva. And Eliezer, almost like the Torah says, love this character. Let's talk about him. Let's engage him. Every word that he says is so important, so dear. Let's just discuss every little thing that he did. You see how the Torah kind of like loves this character? Who is he? He's just a servant. He's just a slave.
He's not Jewish.
Of Avram. A simple guy. I mean, he couldn't have been so simple, right? But he was a slave of Avram. How did a slave? Slaves, by the way, are owned. You own a slave. He's not anything other than property. That's what he is. You would never expect a slave to be a successful person. The Torah focuses on him, that there's a whole discussion on who is this man. And Chazal say, Yafa sichosan shel avdei avos, yoser mitarasan shel banim. That the chatter, the idle chatter, which is what this is, of the avdei avos, of the servants of the avos, is more precious, is greater, is better than the Torah of the children. Because by the children you'll focus on every little detail. We want to know every word. By the Avdei Avos, by Eliezer, look, such an extensive discussion. How did he do this? How was he zeicha to do this? There was just a Kinnus HaShluchim this weekend. So I got the answer in this incredible story I heard there. And I want to share it with you. I believe it really conveys the answer. It was, so there was a session going on. And the theme was, Pasuk says, Hallelujah Hashem Kol Goyim, Ki Govar Oleinu Chasdei. That God Chesed overpowers us and encompasses us and envelops us, the Emes Hashem Lo'ilom. The truth of God is forever. So the 3 guys got up to speak. And each one told a story. You know, that was incredible. They produced this video, and each one had a video introducing who he was, and then he got up to speak. They each spoke for a few minutes after the video introduced them. Now, to tell you what the room looks like, it's a room of rabbis only. It wasn't the main session, the banquet, it wasn't before, Thursday night. So there's a couple thousand rabbis, each of whom has his own community, each of whom is a speaker, each of whom is running a whole operation, and therefore very difficult to please. Usually when you have this kind of thing, you know, you ever been to a bar mitzvah or wedding or whatever, people are just chatting all the way through, the speaker gets up, you're almost wondering, well, what is the poor guy getting up to speak for? Why would a guy put himself through speaking when not one person, oh, well, maybe there's one guy in the back who says, I'm going to do the Rabbi Fave, I'm going to listen. These guys spoke, you could hear a pin drop in the room. It was incredible. And the reason was because they were telling a story from the heart. It was a story of how I thought of this as a career, and it turns out it's not a career. So the first guy told a story of how in the middle of being a shliach, he suddenly got Yana. He got cancer. Diagnosed, and suddenly his whole life turned around. Very powerful story. The second guy got up and spoke. He spoke about He said how he was he bought a truck, he became a truck driver, and subsequently he opened up a business with trucks, with whatever, and within a couple of years he was super successful. And then in 1992, Tavshin Beis, he was a couple of years in business, having a second child, and he wrote into the Rebbe saying which house should he buy, this house or that house. Usually when you ask a question like that, you get an answer, this house or that house. The answer came to him was, maybe you should consider going out on shlichus. He was like blown away. I got a successful business, I'm doing it, whatever. And it was a question, it was like not you have to go out, but maybe you should consider. So he spoke to his wife or whatever, like you don't get an answer like that, they left. He says, he's the last kind of character you would expect to be a shliach. He's totally he's like just this fun-loving, happy individual. So the guy says, I liked the Yankees, I was very into sports. So what do? I go out there, and I decided to change my whole thing. So what I did was, I like the Yankees, so it says I would go out to these sports games, basketball, baseball, whatever, I'd go out to the game, and I get to the game, I want to watch my game, but I want to be a shliach also, so I got them to light a menorah in the middle of the Hanukkah game. So you ever see these games where they have like in the middle, halfway or whatever, they light the menorah and there's like 10,000 people watching and they all see the menorah? He started that. Right? So he put his koiches into action. So, good, he was speaking about how he was, his life was changed over. The third guy comes up and he says this. Now, I met this guy because his name is Rivkin and my wife's maiden name is Rivkin also. So I met him actually the first time 10 years ago. We got chatting about the name. He's not related. And so we're talking about it. At that time, he says to me, I'm the new shliach to Bangalore, India. You know where Bangalore is? India. Do you know where India is? What is India? Like 1 billion people living in India. It's insane. So his city, small little city with 11 million people and 50 Jewish families of that. 11 million people, huge, giant, massive metropolitan city. He says it takes like days to get from one side to the other, and basically more people than Eretz Yisrael totally in one city. And he has 50 Jews in this town. So he said 50 families. But a lot of visitors and tourists and whatever and all that kind of stuff and backpackers. Kitzer, he says like this. I got married. I really wanted to go on shlichus. This was my life's mission, to go out and inspire Jews and change the world. And whenever there was the shluchim banquet, he said, I really wanted to be there. I'm like, I want to be a part of this. And then one day, I get married, and we're looking around. I got the word out that I'm looking for a place to go. One day, I get a call from a friend of mine. His name was Gabi Holzberg. Have you heard the name?
Yes.
So Gabi calls me up, and he says, we're looking for a shliach. Would you like to join us and be a shliach in Bangalore, India? He says, no, I do not. Why? Because I'm thinking like a place which is a little more normal, great, don't get me wrong, it's a great place to visit. But if I'm thinking of this place as the place to go live, not quite my cup of tea to go out and spend my life living in Bangalore. I don't think so, he says. No, I'm not going. So he says, forget it. He says, listen, you really should consider it. Because, when someone says no sometimes, if you listen carefully, it's not an emphatic no. There's no, hang up the phone, and there's, no, I will not go, I will never, when they say I will never go, that deep down maybe they're thinking about it. So Gabi is a fighter. He calls him up, he's persistent. Every couple of days he calls up. He's like, hey, listen, just come for Tishrei. I need someone over here, the month of Tishrei. We need someone over there. Basically, he was in Mumbai and in charge of the whole India to get people around. Yeah, I need someone out there. Just do me a favor. Just come for Tishrei. Shoshani and Kippur, you'll be with the community. You'll daven. Sukkot, you'll make them a thing. Come with your wife. It'll be a nice experience. And then you go back home. He says no. He says, tell me, who's your Rav, who's your Mashpia? Who do you take advice from? Let me talk to him. He says, fine. He's going to be my guest. Mistake. He calls up his Mashpia. He says, no, convince the Mashpia just for Tishrei. Guy goes out, arrives in this place. He's going for Tishrei. He comes. I went with my wife. We went to Japan. One Pesach, Kobe, Japan. A lot of fun. We ended up in Flatbush. It was a bit different. So they go out together. They had a great time. Then they went past Mumbai on the way back. And Gabi tells him, you really should go there as a permanent shlichus. And if you go, I promise I'll be with you. I'm here. Gabi was 6 years there already before. He said, I'll help you in anything you want. I will be at your side. Anything you pick up a phone, whatever you want. No. We're only 2-3 hours, whatever the flight is, 2-3 hours flight away. No problem. Easy. We're the closest to each other. We're neighbors. I'll be with you. Whatever you need, I'm ready to help you with anything. He says, listen, my friend. I understand what you're saying. I do not want to go over here. I'm looking for a place either in the United States of America where there's fresh running water in the taps and there's doctors to go to. Last week I got a call from a lady. She's, I get this email, comes from Nigeria. When you get an email from Nigeria, what do you think?
Spam.
Spam, they're trying to steal my money. She says, she's asking a thing, and I have to open up the email. It said Nigeria, I wouldn't have opened it up. She says, hi, I'm in Nigeria. I was like, press delete. And I want to know about sometimes a mishpacha question. I said, go back, scroll back. She's in Nigeria. I said, what are you doing in Nigeria? What?
How'd she get to you?
Why is she calling you?
There's a website called the Mikvah website, and she goes on the website and she's asking, okay, she's basically she's the shlucha in Nigeria.
Okay.
So, whatever, we've been talking a whole lot of questions, and she has, last week I told her, you really should ask your doctor for that one. She says, are you sure? Because if I don't have to go to the doctor, I don't. The closest doctor is a 3-hour flight. Not the closest mikvah, the closest doctor. I said, you live in a place where there's no doctor. This guy says, just give me a normal place. Basically, I want a good career. In Israel, in Europe, in a lot of places. Australia, most of Brazil's nice, Europe, so a lot of good places, whatever. Even Russia, it's a nice area there today, not so bad. But Bangalore, India, no, my friend. And well, then he left. The next day, he arrives in Eretz Yisrael back home. He gets a call from Gabi. Okay, so when are you starting the shlichus in Bangalore? He's like, my friend, you're persistent. You don't take no for an answer. I'm not going. He's pushing. 2 weeks later, he says to him, gets a call. Gabi on the phone. He says, tell me, do you know the halachas of baltashchis? You're not allowed to throw away things in the garbage for no reason. He says, so listen, I bought you a ticket, a flight to go to New York, to the Kinos HaShluchim, 2008. Okay? I bought you a thing, you can go on shliach to the Kinos HaShluchim. He says, that's very nice, Gabi, but I'm not a shliach. He says, look, here's a story. I can't make it to the Kinos HaShluchim. I would love to be there. And you go. He says, I don't know. I got to ask my mashpia. He says, no, I'll call you mashpia. Okay. Calls him up. The mashpia calls him back. And he says, okay, it's not so bad. I mean, look, you were there for Tishrei. He's the shliach in Mumbai. He can't make it. You go. You represent India. The guy says, I'm a shoiter. I don't know why, but I agree. So, hopped on the plane, and I'm going to represent India. But I'm not at all a shliach in India. And I arrive, whatever, I'm going around, I'm walking around the kinos, and then, and I'm wearing this tag, and the tag says, it's got to say something, you got to get a thing to walk in. It says Bangalore, India, that's what it says. I meet Rabbi Kotlarski, he's the one who sends out in charge of the shluchim. I meet him, he gives me a shalom aleichem. Shalom aleichem to the new shliach of Bangalore. He says, Rabbi, there's an elephant, an Indian elephant behind you. Turns around and says, that's the same chance you have. Am I going to Bangalore? I'm not going there. Take an Indian elephant, put it in the room. There's an elephant in the room. This guy is not going. He said, Shkoyach. The next couple days, Sunday night, there's a banquet. This part I remember. And he gets up and they announce they have a roll call. And they announce, this is the backstory behind the roll call. There's a roll call every year of all the shluchim, all places around the world. Shluchim of what's it called? Argentina and Bermuda and Aruba and all these wacky countries in the Congo and the shluchim of India, Mumbai and Bangalore. The new shliach to Bangalore. Welcome. And everyone gets up and gives them a clap. The guys go to Bangalore, the guys looking at them, you guys are as crazy and nuts as anyone would ever imagine. He basically told them, you got the shliach to Bangalore, that's how he's doing. He says, guys, listen, I always wanted to be a shliach, I always wanted to be at this banquet, but I'm looking for a good career. I'm not looking to be a meshuggah. Leave me alone with being a meshuggah. That was it. He smiled, told his friends, these guys pulled a fast one on me. They think that if they announce it to everyone, now I'm going to go. Guess what? They made one mistake in the roll call. There is no shliach in Bangalore. Gets on a plane and arrives back home after the weekend, back in Eretz Yisrael. When I landed, now, I got to tell you, he said the story. When he said the story, I was like, is that the way it happened? So I met him afterwards on Sunday. I met him on the street this past Sunday. I said to him, is that what was the story? Now this guy, I gotta tell you, when he got up to speak, there was a video before, right? When he got up to speak, he is he's like a soft kind of character. And his shyness belies this charisma, a dynamic charisma which lies inside of him. You see that he's a fire, but when he gets up, he's like shy, timid. Looks like a simple kind of guy. He says to me, in my life, in my shlichus, I do crazy things. He says, I got these guys on drugs, and they can be on death row. And I help figure out how to get them kosher food and how to do stuff for them, how to help these guys. He says, I've got people who come to me that the craziest, wackiest, meshuggah stories you could ever imagine. And that's what my life is. The guy, the other day, he says, I went up to the mountain somewhere I was Zaka. You know what Zaka is? They got to go out and find these bodies. There was an Israeli body, so I had to get up some mountain in the middle of nowhere to find a body that was lying in the sun for 3 days. And then I had to shech chickens. Me and my wife together, we learned how to shech chickens together because no one else wanted to learn me how to shech chickens. I needed someone with me. So my poor wife learned how to shech the chicken together with me. We shech the chickens together basically in order to make some kind of Jewishness. This is the kind of life we live. But he's he's a ball of fire, soft kind of guy. He's like so simple. So he says, I got back home. I arrived in Eretz Yisrael. And when I arrived and I landed, the world had turned over. This is Rosh Chodesh Kislev, 10 years ago. Remember what happened? What happened was, there was a terrorist attack on Mumbai. And he described in the vivid detail of it. I mean, I didn't even know that. The guy who planned the whole attack was sitting at the airport, planning it. They found David Hadley. This guy lived in the Chabad house for 3 months, pretending he wanted to convert. The guy who murdered them lived with them for 3 months inside. Then he was taken to Guantanamo for a while when he was caught, and now he's somehow mysteriously dead. But so he says, so I'm sitting down and I hear the news, and my heart is absolutely shattered and broken. And you would think that at this point I am going to be adamant, he says. Now it was clear to me, crystal clear. Now you see why I'm not going there. This is it. This is the point. And the bodies arrive, and the Levaya takes place in Eretz Yisrael. It was in Kfar Chabad. I'm sitting down, and there's a Levaya. There's thousands of people present, and everyone is crying. As it turned out afterwards, they were actually murdered right away. Rivki was shot right away, and Gabi was pretty soon afterwards was killed. But the bodies are lying there, fresh bodies. And we had 5 murdered Jews, and the bodies are in front there, and there's this Levaya, thousands of people present, and I'm standing at the Levaya and I'm just looking, and my heart is torn apart. And I'm looking and I'm saying, Almighty God, how could you possibly have allowed two people who gave up their lives, whose whole being was all about doing chesed and avas Yisrael, and this zu Torah b'zu schara, this is the reward for Torah? And I'm listening to the speech, and I'm watching the whole thing going on, the eulogies, and something is completely turning over, and my entire being is being transformed. And I looked at them, and then the bodies are being taken up to Yerushalayim for burial in Yerushalayim. And as they're going, I'm driving in the car right behind them, and I'm looking at the hearse, carrying these two bodies of the people who I just met, just my good friend. I was just in their house discussing, and the words are reverberating in my mind. I will be there with you. Whatever you need, I'm there. Just call me up. I'm always with you. And at that point, I called up my mashpia. And I said to him, listen, Bilavai, in the middle of Bilavai, I said, am I crazy? My whole life I was looking for a good career, how to be a shliach, how to go help people in a good career. This is happening now, and I just realized one thing, that this is so crazy, no one's ever going to want to go out to India again. If I don't do this now, it's over. Nobody will ever want to go. Because the whole industry of shlichus, I felt, is on my shoulders now, at this point. And I'm talking to my mashpia, and I said, something changed in me. It's not a career, it's a mission. It's not about my career and me saying that I have a good place with running water and all the amenities of life and all the wonderful things. If it's about the truth, if it's about the mission, then India cannot lose today 2 families of shluchim. Enough, they got 1. And right there and then, I told my mashpia, I'm going. This guy who was announced on Motzei Shabbat, on Sunday night, as the Shliach of Bangalore, is taking it from a career to a mission, and he's going to Bangalore. And I packed up my bags. I had a baby. He says a few days later, a new baby was born. I wanted to call my baby Gabriel Noach. I couldn't do it. I wasn't able to, because it was the wound was so open, was so hurtful. I just couldn't do it. So instead, we called baby Menachem Mendel. He says, we got on the plane with a fresh, brand new baby, a couple months old when he was. And we ended up being Bangalore, Shluchim. And every day of my life, I feel, and Gabi says those words to me, whatever you do, I will be with you. Little did he realize how much he would be with me. Every single day, I carry that message. I will be with you. The only reason why I'm over here is because of you. I will be with you more than you could imagine. Is it a career or is it a mission? Now take a look what happened with Eliezer. There is one key to the story of Eliezer. Eliezer says, when he speaks to Avram, he says, Avram tells him, he says, go find a daughter for my son. Go find a wife for my son. So he says, yeah, but what happens if I can't find? Right? Maybe the woman won't want to come back with me. It is a bit crazy to come back with me. Maybe she won't want to come. Innocent question, right? Ulai is spelled Aleph Vav Lamed Yud. Then he repeats the story afterwards. And he tells them, he says, Vo'imar el Adoini, I told my master, what do you mean? Ulai lo yisei leicha isha acharoi. He's now talking to Lavan and Besuel. Ulai is spelled over here, Aleph Lamed Yud. The Vav disappeared. Says Rashi, Elai Ksiv. Ulai was changed to Elai. Bat hayta lo leEliezer. Eliezer had a daughter. Vaya mechazer limtzo ilah. He was looking for any kind of rationale. Shegemer le'Avram lifnois elav la'asiyeh bitis. Avram like, I'm a good guy. I'm a holy guy. I'm Eliezer. I have a daughter. You know, by the way, who Besuel is? A Rasha Marusha. Besuel died. He was poisoned by the Malach because he was trying to poison Eliezer. Do you know who Lavan was? He's the guy trying to kill Yaakov. Well, Rivka comes from there. He says, my daughter comes from Eliezer, a holy man. Don't you think it makes sense for Yitzchak? Amar le Avram, b'ni Baruch ve'ata arur, ve'ein arur medabek bebaruch. My son is a Baruch. He's blessed. For whatever reason Avram had, I don't understand the reason, he says. Avram wanted that. Now, did it make sense in Eliezer's mind? Why Avram didn't want his daughter? Can you imagine the hurt Eliezer felt? His whole life he was dreaming about the moment that Yitzchak, 37 years old, would marry his daughter. 40 years old. When Yitzchak would be able to marry my daughter, he's like, oh my gosh, that's the best thing for Yitzchak, the best thing for my daughter, the best thing for me, the best thing for Avram. And when he said, Ulai lo yiselecha isha, maybe she will want to go, he meant to say, Elai lo yiselecha isha. Please God, hope she doesn't come. If she doesn't come, I'll go. Now I ask you a question. If you were Eliezer, would you withstand that temptation? Would you be able to go on an honest and true mission when Avram tells you, B'ni Baruch be'ata aru? So sorry.
You're a person.
I would take it personally. I would say, Avram, okay, no worries. You're the master. You want to do it? No problem. I'll go. But in the back of my mind, all the time, I would be saying, not really. I'm going to try and make this. I'm going to try sabotage the attempt. Eliezer goes through. He sits down to the meal. He says, I'm not speaking. Lo yoichal, I'm not eating. Adim dibarti devorei. First, I need to speak. And what's his conversation? Vayimar, he says, Eved Avram Anochi. First thing I want to tell you is, I'm a servant of Avram. And let me tell you the story. I wanted my daughter. I really didn't want this shidduch to be. But I pushed. I gave it every fiber of my being because it's not about me and my career. It's about the mission. Do you see why Eliezer became the most successful man in history? Tell me, there's any more successful man? What's the most success you could ever have in life? If the Torah dedicates psukim to you. The Torah felt, we're so scrupulous at every little detail, every little letter. No man ever produced more words in the Torah for a story that he had, more than Eliezer.
I learned that once he fulfilled this, he became like an Av, and that's what like Avram gave us chesed, Yitzchak.
He became part of it, okay.
He gave us emunah. There's no way that he gave emunah, and after he finished this, he became Baruch, and that's why we name our children Eliezer.
That's nice. Beautiful. But even without that, the story itself is the most incredible story. The story is, he produced psukim in the Torah. He produced incredible psukim. A great story. He produced the most incredible psukim in the Torah, pasuk after pasuk after pasuk. He made it into the Torah. That means this is God's word. You understand? God spoke through Eliezer. That's what it means. What does it mean? It means that Abraham spoke through him. Why? Because Eliezer ceased to think about a career, about his own ego. He started to think about the mission, about what God wanted him to do. And the question I ask of you and I ask of myself is, what about you? What about me? Is this a career? Or is it a mission?
Our life.
If you have challenges in life, and you have a child who needs help, or you have a situation which is challenging and difficult, and you're wondering, how am I getting out of this one? I ask you the question. Is this about my career? Or is it about what God wants of me? If I have a child who's got an issue, do I say, God, why did you do this to me? Why? And I become debilitated and paralyzed. I can't do what I need to do. Or do I say, God, you gave me a mission. I'm going to carry out the mission. Even if I'm upset and I don't want this mission, I wouldn't have want. But God, you gave me a mission. I'm going to carry it out. You see? Eliezer's mission is, I want one thing I don't think is a good thing for me. Vayimar, Eved Avram Anochi. The most successful man in history is a man who didn't try to be the most successful man in history. He actually had a different idea of what success would be. Success to him meant, I'll be the son-in-law, I'll be the mechutin, my daughter will be the daughter-in-law, and the wife of Yitzchak. Can you imagine that would be success? God said I got some different message for you what success is. Success is when you cease to think about your own career and you start to think about me and what I want and what your mission is. In other words, start thinking what am I needed for, not what I want. And then my life changes. The other shliach who spoke on that same night was that guy with the Yenamachla. And he said the following vort of the Baal Shem Tov. The pasuk says, the pasuk of in Moshe Rabbeinu speaking, and he says, "Hadover asher yikshe mikem, takrivun elai ushmaitiv." If something is difficult for you, bring it close to me, and I will listen. So he translated the pasuk as follows. Baal Shem Tov says, "Hadover asher yikshe." Again, the simple meaning is, when you have difficult things, Moshe says, bring it to me. So the Baal Shem Tov translates, "Hadover asher yikshe." When you have a challenge, a difficult situation in life, if you don't know how to handle a challenge, a curveball that God has thrown at you, and you're like, God, ich kenn nicht, I can't do this. And it's impossible to handle. The reason is, Hadover asher yikshe mikem. It's because you're taking it upon you. It's your own ego involved. You're saying, God, I wanted my life to be this way, and you made it that way. Solution is, takrivun elai. This is God talking. If you bring it close to me, if you think about what I want, or otherwise put, not what I as an individual want, what is wanted of me, what does God want of me, what is my mission in life, not what's my career, what's my mission, ushmativ, then I will listen. And it's a clear point in life that always successful people, the most successful person in history is one who's not thinking about so challenging, it's so impossible, what should I do? It's all me can be thinking about yourself. If you stop thinking about yourself, if you throw it at God, what do you want from me today? You want me to deal with, I thought I would be this, this, and this, and this, that's what I thought I would be, but I'm not. Ushmati, then I will listen. It's about the mission, about the truth. And when it is, you become the most successful person ever in history.